Men and women all over the globe are joining now for the best videos on the internet.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
And I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Click the subscribe button now to become a member of the Action Pack. Would you like to know more?
Hello everyone and welcome. The world of dreams is a fantastical place. And the series that we're talking about today takes us on a journey with the master of dreams. I'm Mike, and with me today is...
Steven.
And this is the after-action interview for The Sandman. Okay, guys, so as always, we are going to start with the show's production. So this show, I did not actually know this. You read the comics, right? Okay, so I didn't read the comics, but this show was actually created by DC Comics. It was based on a comic book of the same name. So the first production company, so we have three production companies: DC Comics, DC Entertainment, and Netflix. DC Comics is most well known for The Batman, which came out in 2022. And then other than this and that, they most recently did The Suicide Squad in 2021. That was the good one that came out by James Gunn. And then DC Entertainment, most well known for Black Adam. Oh, and just so you guys understand this, this is according to IMDb. So if you disagree that DC Entertainment or DC Comics or any of these people are and you think that they're more famous for something else, I'm going off of IMDb, okay? So they are DC Entertainment most well known for Black Adam from 2022, and then the Titans series, which has gone from 2018 to 2023. I haven't seen that series, so I don't know if it's still going, but on IMDb it says 2018 to 2023. The third production company was Netflix, who is most well known for that 90s show series, which has just started earlier this year in 2023, and then also did Wednesday, the series from 2022 to present. They are going to be bringing up a season 2 of that. Have you seen any of those productions? What do you think of the production companies for this?
I mean, as far as like specific production companies coming out, I'm, your average consumer. I'm not always paying attention to, what's scrolling across. I do tend to follow these, pictures and entertainment that's all very comic centric, so
okay.
that brings my interest, into this one here today. And like you said, DC is definitely trailed behind Marvel, not just due to the marriage between Marvel and Disney, but just the inability to get out of the gate and have, substantial and credible entertainment that comes out of their box office. I think they've rested on their laurels of the old school Batman and Christopher Reeve's Superman, and it shows like they don't have those same level of sharpness that Marvel and their writing teams come out with.
Yeah, I will say I watch. So just a shout out to another YouTuber that I watch who's much bigger than I am, but his name is Yellow Flash 2, and he talks about comic book news, and he shows right now they say that the comic book industry is bigger than it's ever been. But if you look at the comic books, that the top 100 comic books that come out, they don't call them comic books anymore. They call them graphic novels, and most of them are from Japan. And the only ones from DC that end up in the top 50 or even top 100 usually are just Batman. Like the only thing that DC has as a comic book property right now is Batman. That does any good. So without getting into your final statement or review score or anything like that. Knowing that about DC, what does that make you think? Like, you think that this obviously is? Do you think that this is like much better than what they usually put out?
Absolutely. This is
Okay.
head above heels, 100% better in any direction they've tried to go with the DCEU, the Justice League, but now, the last few revamps of Batman, Superman, all of that. In fact, this entire run of DC should really kind of like, they should be looking at this and seeing this as their pathway. Is, all of this Sandman story comes out of a comic run. The editor, her name was Karen Berger, and she's known as the mother of weird comics. If you've ever seen Swamp Thing, ever seen V for Vendetta, if you've ever seen, obviously here the Sandman, but Watchmen, all of these comics and motion pictures, they're her brain trust. She got these people together and she worked on these with all of those artists and writers. And her intent was to have a darker, more mature storytelling. She wanted to take comics and instead of being hokey and based on a superhero and supervillain, like, I'm going to get you, and haha. It turned into something that was extremely raw, artistic, and beautiful. And that pathway, that is shown here, I think, with the amount of clout that Sandman got, that's a very viable path for.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So then, I think then we're good. We'll move forward a little bit here. So into the writing staff, and I think that's always a big one. I mean, it's like the biggest thing. You can have a great idea, and we've seen in the past where great ideas have just crumbled. Can I just add? So your glasses have a glare on them. I don't know.
I could take those off.
If you can take them off, yeah. Okay, cool. I was gonna say just for your own.
I need to read something. I'll put it back on, but.
Okay, I was gonna say just for your own presentation, like however you want to look, but they did have a glare. So you could. Anyway, I was saying like you can have a great idea and that just crumbles under poor writing if you don't have the writing staff, even with great actors and everything. So there's 3 main writers. And it's interesting stuff here to talk about with these writers. So, from writing credit. So I start at the top credit down. Okay, so the first writer is Lauren Bellow. She is most well known for the Foundation series from 2021, and her entire writing credit is 1 episode. She wrote 1 episode of Foundation before she did this show. Just a moment. I'm looking. I have her pulled up here on IMDb as well. So she is. Yeah. So other than that, she did. She's listed as additional crew. So on IMDb, she's listed as additional crew, like an assistant, to a couple of different people who were, production people on different shows. But actually, she has only 1 writing credit, other than this show. Then you have Vanessa Benton. She wrote for the show How to Get Away with Murder. That series went from 2014 to 2020, and she also only wrote 1 episode, and that's her whole writing credit is 1 episode written for the show How to Get Away with Murder. And again, she was listed as extra crew, and so she was just one of the kind of production people, but not exactly doing really anything powerful, kind of like Kathleen Kennedy, which is, what I'm saying? Like you have this person who's just like a little additional thing, and then all of a sudden gets this great power with the show. And we could probably argue that she hasn't done as well as these guys did moving forward with her. But anyway, with how she writes things. Anyway, though, so then we have Catherine Smith McCullen. She wrote for this, and she has the most writing credits. She wrote for the series Bloom, which went from 2019 to 2020, and she wrote 1 episode of that show. And then she also wrote a movie called The Other Lamb, which none of this stuff, by the way, I've seen. I knew of How to Get Away with Murder, but I haven't seen any of the other stuff. The Other Lamb came out in 2019. So I haven't seen, like I said, I haven't seen any of that stuff. I know How to Get Away with Murder was a movie a long time ago that they now made into a series. and I think that series is over now. Have you seen any of those things to comment on kind of the past writing of these writers?
I think I've seen a few, like you said, of the How to Get Away with Murder.
Okay. Well, how was it? Was it good?
It's kind of like not rememberable.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes in that vein of just something you put on for the background, and that has nothing against any of these writers. And I understand how hard it is to get into this game and how hard it is to grind this kind of stuff out, and especially in the environment and being locked in a room with a writing staff and have to figure out all this kind of stuff. It's pretty difficult, but kudos to them for this.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, if you had an issue with any of the shows that any of these people have written, you have to remember they only wrote one episode of each of the shows that they wrote for, so it's not them. They were probably being held back. They were like, if you let us write this, it'll be so much better. No, I don't know. Okay, so basically an unknown group of people writing this, which is quite interesting for me. And then, so other than that, though, so we'll move forward. So we have this with the director. So there are 2 directors for this. Again, so there are actually multiple directors for this show, but let me see. There's a multiple, but the 2 top billing are the ones we're going to go over because each episode, I guess. Let me see. I'll actually count them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's like 7 directors, but most of them only wrote 1. So these 2 that we're going to talk about were like the main ones. I
think that's on purpose too. I would say the way that the series is structured, where each episode could be its own standalone episode, but they also intertwine with each other. So that was probably like a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I've seen that on other things too, where like I'm a big fan of The Office. Have you watched The Office, the American version? Yeah. Oh yeah. So like you're saying, each episode that's like a sitcom, or but each episode kind of has its own feel, so they get different people to direct each episode. So I've seen that. So again, I've seen a couple. I've seen, I think, like the first part of what you would call the first part of this show, The Sandman, but I haven't seen the whole thing. And I've seen them. I've liked what I've seen so far, and you can. So I would say that they probably have successfully done that with different directors for each episode, and then I know that's a viable way of having your show set up where you have different directors. So okay, so the first one is Jamie Childs. Now, he is known for Doctor Who from 2018. He wrote 4 episodes from the Doctor Who series from 2018. And just for everybody's... Not holding anything against Mr. Childs here, but just for everybody's information, my understanding is that was... Because I did not watch this series of Doctor Who, like this particular one. But that's the female Doctor, which I know... Okay. Has been considered not the best, but he wrote 4 episodes for the female Doctor. And then he also wrote Willow. He wrote 2 episodes of the Willow series, which came out in 2023, earlier this year. And also, I've heard that the Willow show was also not the best show. So
I'll have to do one about that after this.
Okay. Did you watch it? Would you say...
Oh, yeah.
Would you say good or bad? Just generally good or bad?
To me, it was mediocre, leaning into bad.
Okay, so I would say that, like you were saying, not really trying to give away my opinion of this show so far, but of what I've seen, this was like pretty good. So that's what it's always interesting to go through production and see that, like, the writing credits or the directorial credits of some of these people actually are things that did not do so well, and then they did like a good thing. So, so he directed 2 episodes for Willow. And then Andreas Baez, Baez, is the last name, and he is most well known for The Hidden Face from 2011, which I haven't seen, or I don't know anything of that. And then that's a movie. And then he also did Narcos Mexico. He directed 10 episodes of that, and that ran from 2018 to 2021. Have you seen Narcos Mexico?
Not the Mexican one, but I have seen Narcos the series, and
Okay.
it's decent.
Right. Okay. So I imagine that he probably Narcos Mexico did run for 3 years, and he directed 10 of the episodes. I imagine Narcos is kind of a big name. Probably did not do a bad job with that. That was probably a good show. Just on name recognition alone, we can make a safe assumption of that, I think. But I haven't seen it, so. Okay, so then, so basically we have unknown staff of writers. We have some pretty big production companies. And I would say DC Comics, DC Entertainment, and Netflix, maybe I would consider that to be like a B to B plus ranked production studios. Then unknown writers, and then some maybe middle of the road directors is my, just from what I'm seeing. And then the last thing that we go over, and I think that it's actually particularly important in this series, is music. So music by David Buckley. He's most well known for Jason Bourne from 2016, and then also Evil, which is a series that has gone from 2019 to present. And I believe that series Evil, I think it's on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix. But I think that the music in this in particular, and I want to ask you, what did you think? But also, I think that the music in this show, particular, just of the episodes that I've seen of it, was pretty good and does a really good job of drawing people in with, that atmospheric feeling,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they nailed it on the score. And, they know the right timing to, have the music come in, go out, and what kind of emotion they're trying to draw off on this. It was the skill that they pulled it off with, to me, seemed like a big production level. Your Star Wars, your movies like that. That seemed to be the caliber that they had on this.
Okay. Yeah, and I would basically, like I said, of what I've seen of it, I haven't seen the whole show, so just so you guys are understanding how these after-action interviews, which is kind of a new format, how these go, is it's something that I either have had zero experience dealing with, or something that I maybe have seen a little bit of, like a video game I did one with a video game, I'm still editing that, but basically, I didn't play the game, I brought somebody in, they talked about it, I didn't watch the whole show, so Steven here, also known, by the way, as Salty Skipper, he is the subject matter expert in kind of giving us his opinion on this, and I'm going to direct and ask some questions and things like that. But yeah, of what I've seen of it, I think that you're right. I think that the music was done really well. So then, moving into plot. So we always
on the credits, we can't forget the brainchild behind this.
That was the editor that you were saying.
Well, there's the editor, but you're the artist and man who created the entire series, Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman, and you know what? It's interesting because I'm looking. Oh, here it is. Yeah, Neil Gaiman. Okay, let me take a look because I pull it up here. Neil Gaiman. Actually, he's known for a couple of credits here. I'll just say this real quick. So he was a writer and creator for the TV show Good Omens, which actually that ran from 2019 to 2022. He wrote 11 episodes. I've never seen it, but I've watched. There's some YouTube channels where you can watch, and they'll do like a movie, but then they'll break the movie down into like 15 minutes, and they'll tell you everything that happens in the movie. You know what I'm saying? Have you seen those? I've watched Good Omens on that, and I really liked it. Like, it makes me want to watch it. And the acting and cast and everything. Yeah, the writing was really good for that, so I like that. And then also he did the show that's on Netflix. Other than that, and then this show, he did Lucifer. He wrote 93 episodes, and then he did American Gods, which he wrote 26 episodes of. So this guy. Did he write? The thing that I was trying to look at is that I don't know. He didn't write all of he didn't write any of the episodes for the show here, but he was the guy that created these characters.
Yes, he's the one that created all these worlds, and he was a DC comic artist and writer, and he was the one creating these stories in DC under the helm of Karen Berger, who was formulating this entire dark verse, of comics and DC.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, there you go. That's pretty good. He basically this world. A lot of the writing staff and all this stuff probably had a good start with some of the stuff that he's done because I think from what I've seen of his it's been pretty good writing. So
Yeah.
okay.
I'm sorry for misspeaking too. You probably cut it out. He's just the writer. He's not the artist.
Oh, okay.
So
He's just the writer.
So he was writing and creating all these stories, and then they had other artists working on them.
Yeah. All right. Well then, okay. So then let's move into the plot here. So we've got the IMDb plot summary. I'm going to read that. I just want to, being that this is a series, we have 12 episodes. They're about an hour long. I know you were telling me there's 10 episodes, but then two extra episodes.
Yeah, on the end, they came out with two small little teaser episodes, and they're also really well done as well. And these are more just like little artistic flourishes to put on the end. And you got the story with the cat, and it's abandoned, and trying to get all the abandoned cats together and go crazy and nuts, but they're still in that dreamscape world, that magical type world.
Okay.
So you're seeing his real fanciful style and stuff come on those.
Okay. So yeah, basically 10 core episodes, then the 2 little extra episodes, which is always appreciated. Actually, I like when they do little in between stuff that you can catch. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so then this is the IMDb plot summary. Actually, there's 2 that were put on IMDb, and I think the first one is the main one, and then the other one is almost from a reviewer, a critic, I would say. But here it is. So, upon escaping after decades of imprisonment by a mortal wizard, Dream, the personification of dreams, sets about to reclaim his lost equipment. Okay, so that's the first one. And then the second one here is a wizard attempting to capture death to bargain for eternal life traps her younger brother, Dream, instead. Fearful for his safety, the wizard kept him imprisoned in a glass bottle for decades. After his escape, Dream, also known as Morpheus, goes on a quest for his lost objects of power. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I would definitely say that there's more to it than what is in that IMDb plot summary.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I saw him. He gets... I don't think he... No, wait. He has his helmet, the ruby... It's the helmet, the ruby, and the sand. Mm-hmm. And my understanding is that he get... Yeah, I think even where I'm at, he already has all of them. Mm-hmm. And then the series continues on. Not really like a spoiler, because that's the whole point is to get all of his stuff. But what do you? So go through the plot. Let's talk about this. First of all, what do you think of the plot summary? Like I said, there's more to it than that. But then give us kind of your, if you were to sit down and explain this. Well, you are sitting down and explaining it. Explain it to our audience. Tell us what the show is. No spoilers. Tell us what the show is. Yeah.
I mean, the show is something different, all in all. I mean, especially with Neil Gaiman at the helm of this, you're going to get that real mystical, fantastical, envisioning on this, and he leans so much on well-known mythology. So you're talking Morpheus, that's the god of dreams in Greek mythology, and the representation, the symbology, all of these things that go into it is combining together to tell this story that's not your usual just let's start, tell you your introduction, your plot, and then finish this out and make this which is kind of how TV's been going lately. Is okay, we're gonna have these real cut and dry, series. It has to last this long. You're already, in the feeling of each one of these shows. Okay, I'm in episode 8. We should be ending soon. The plot kind of feels like it should be ending soon. Things are tying up and wrapping together. Like, you're not going to get that out of this series.
Okay.
You have to follow it along. You have to engage with it, and these ideas that are being thrown at you are going to be heavy with philosophical questioning, with mythical mythology and symbolism. So you're gonna have to pay attention to all that kind of stuff. And if you're not the person that's into that, yeah, it might not it might not be your bag. But if you enjoy those kind of things, this is a real treat for you.
Yeah, well, and I want to comment on what you just said too. Is there's obviously the subjective, and everything is subjective. So you can have something that is objectively good, and just people don't like it, or you can be a person who knows that something is objectively good, but you still don't it's good, but you're just it's not. I'm not into it. It's not my thing. So here at Mike's After Action Reviews, we're always trying to look at the objective side when we break down characters, writing, all that stuff. So bear with us if this may be I'm just going off what you just said. This may be a show that is not for everyone, but we are trying to find out, even if it's not for you, is it objectively good?
Yeah,
I
would say yes.
Okay. And I do have a question for you. So we've kind of talked about this before, especially when we did the Mars Summit, which everyone should go check out. This show has some political ideology in it, and my question here is, I think that a lot of people are kind of getting sick of that, and sick of the way that Hollywood has been doing that lately. I think that so far, like I said, I think that of what I've seen, it's been good, and there hasn't really been an issue. Would you say, basically, I believe that it is the best way to put in a political ideology or a philosophical question is to present it as exactly that. It's a philosophical question. It is an ideological question rather than being a straight up political question. For instance, there's the idea of let's just say gun control. Okay, not getting into what I believe politically or what you believe politically, but just gun control. Some people are for it, some people are against it. A show, I don't think would be wise to come outright and have an episode about actual gun control. But it might be good to have an episode of a show where they talk about just straight up freedom versus protecting people from other people. So Yeah, I would say. Would you say that this show goes into the straight up political, or is it going into the ideological? That's my question there.
I would say it does go into the political vein, but it's also due to the nature of art that you're getting out.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to have these philosophical debates that these characters engage in. You're not going to be able to tell these stories without having those political ideologies expressed. And
right.
I would say I don't think it takes away or makes I don't think it lends credence to typical ideologies, because they're using these as stepping stones in the series. And you see there's a little there's a whole episode with Dream speaking to a mortal about his mortality, and how important that is, and how important it is that he lives and all these lives and stuff like that. So you're not going to have that deep dive and be able to artistically express that without, adding in those political ideas.
Right. And I do agree with you. And as long as I think basically people's issue, is as long as it's organic, I would say I would also add, like, aside from what I just said before, as long as it's organic, it makes sense. And in the particular episode that you're talking about, I did see that episode, and I think that episode was done really well. That was one of my favorites that I've seen so far. And so, I'm gonna kind of answer my own question just a little bit here, piggybacking off of what you said. So there is some political, there is some stuff, but it is done very well. Like, it is done so appropriately that it hasn't bothered anything. There are some characters that you look at and you go, oh, well, this is like an ideological or even maybe political archetype character that you see in shows nowadays. And it doesn't take anything away. It's not,
it's more for the symbology of the show. You have to have that person represent that character, and just because that person represents that character, that stereotype, does not mean that the show is taking a stance on that. It's just saying that, like, this is this character.
Yeah, and I think that that's proper. So the reason that I want to bring that up is, like I've said, people have had some issues with that. And I just want to very clearly say, like, there is some talks of those things, but it's done really appropriately, no problem. Okay, so we just had to do a cut because I got a phone call, guys, for people watching this on YouTube. So the political stuff, Steve just told me he wants to say one more thing, but I also just wanted to say, kind of my last point here is just to say, so there is that stuff in there, but it's done very well. It's organic. It's to represent, different ideologies. I think that the show does not ever... I do not have a problem with shows and movies asking a question or presenting an idea, but I really, really, and I think other people really don't like basically being told what the right answer is. So I think that they do it very well here, but Stephen, what else did you want to say about that?
Yeah, well, it's also important to remember the time period that these questions are being asked and these type of political, ideals are being brought in. Because the show starts at the end of, I want to say, World War I, or right before World War I. If you notice, that's when Dream is captured. And then for 100 years, he's, being held captured by humanity. And then, once he's able to get free, he's back in the world. People are dreaming again. And then you have the issues with the Corinthian and all these results, and having to deal with that fallout. If you also notice that follows a lot of writing and political ideology during the time from World War I to World War II, where people were coming out as artists and writers and saying, like, the human soul has been sucked away because of these two wars, because so much death and things were put out in the world. So, there's political ideas like that are coming out in here. Like you said, this is a very hopeful series. Like, Dream intends to make the world better. He intends to try to fix things. So it's not trying to make hardline political statements and stuff. It's more to humanity's hopes and aspirations and these things.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and that's what. And I agree. I think that, and it sounds really good. Like it's. I think it was done very well. So. Okay, so then anything more just about the general plot, the storyline. So we know he gets captured. He's trying to get his I forget what he calls them, but basically his lost equipment, which is his helmet. He has a ruby and he has a bag of sand. And and basically, so what else? What else happens? So I know he's caught. He's caught, like you said, he's caught for 100 years. What else? What else is there that happens?
And then for the remainder of the series, it's kind of like a mystery genre where he's trying to figure out who imprisoned him, why no other gods came to his aid, and helped him out, and basically what was the fallout for him being gone? Which that's where you get the Corinthian, who's set up as the big bad of the series. And then, of course, then he's trying to find out who orchestrated all this, and all these other gods. You find out that there's a whole culture behind these, and that's one of those things where Neil Gaiman plays off the mythos writing very well. Things have, symbology and meaning behind them. A character's going to come out and have a very, not just like the way they're written, but like all of the artistic value around that person is going to bleed into that symbology. And so doing things like that, I think, were just amazing. Pulled off. And then, where you have Dream go down to hell and battle Lucifer. And it was just like, that whole scene blew me away. I was just like, oh my God.
Actually, and I saw that part, and I did like it, and I've heard other people say the same thing. So it's not just me, it's not just you. I've heard other people say, like, they were really impressed with how that whole thing worked out. So, okay, so I think that is a good place to kind of lead into characters and acting here. Let's talk about this. So, let me see. So I'll start off with just the main character, because I know the main character here. We have Tom Sturridge, and he plays the part of Dream. He is most well known for On the Road, a movie from 2012. And then he also most recently was in a show called Irma Vep, which was a TV series, and that was in 2022. I haven't seen On the Road or Irma Vep, but I think that his acting and stuff here was, it's weird because I haven't seen him in anything else, but this particular character is so weird. Like, just the way that the acting was so weird. He's an
older culture kind of thing. Like, he's harkening back to, like, Dream is your perfect little, like, emo baby, He would fit in with The Cure, and stuff like that. They nailed him.
So, is he like that in the comics? Let's talk about it. Okay, so what kind of character is Dream? So take it away, Steve. Tell us about Dream.
Dream is your, I don't want to say like dark, but he's leaning into that like gothic, type look. He's brooding. He's real melodramatic, but if anything, the reason is because Dream is supposed to be that character. Dream is supposed to be the character that brings human philosophy to life and questions all these other attributes, and inspires people and takes away from people. There was like a small scene about him just like going through the bar, and he hears William Shakespeare out there ranting and raving, and he's like, fine, I'm gonna like give you crazy dreams. And then we all know who William Shakespeare is, right? So this melodramatic like emo look is all a part of that character. It has to, because that's what he's representing.
I do have a question about it. So obviously it seems to me like he's the good guy. There's nothing of him being like a bad guy or anything, but typically the good guy character is maybe a little bit more flamboyant about being good. Like, not necessarily flamboyant, but just like, hey, let's get out there and do the right thing and all this stuff. He seems to be a little bit more logical, and maybe logical about doing the right thing. I would say, like Dungeons and Dragons, he would be like a lawful good, What do you think of that? Like, he's kind of like that very steady tone, not ever very excited, doesn't ever really seem like totally impassioned about anything, but he does do the right thing, so.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely the philosophical challenge to each and every god that exists in this world, and he's kind of that like what you call it, the safe stop for these other gods going out of control. If he wasn't there, that's the whole point. Like when he leaves for 100 years, you see the entire world just kind of like crack, go nuts, and all these other gods of desire and all these other, emotions and stuff just kind of like full on go crazy. And that's how, all these dreams that people are having are able to, spiral out of control and whatnot. So that character has to be that way because he's like, okay, I see myself as the safety pin holding all this together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like you're the god of dreams. You're the god of like people's wants and desires and their fantasies. So it's a very juxtaposition place to be in.
So for people, I do just want to say kind of what I think about when I think of what a god of dreams would be is something like, have you played Elder Scrolls?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So for people who play video games, maybe you'll get this reference. I kind of would think of him as almost being like a Sheogorath type of character. Like kind of crazy, a little bit like, ooh, dreams, or maybe then also the other side of that, almost like split personality would be like nightmares. But yeah, so that's kind of why I asked that question, because it does seem, he just seems different than what you might expect. I do get the sense of great amount of wisdom and responsibility that probably really, really tempers him anyway.
Yeah.
But just your typical like fantasy guy, like, I mean, literally a guy who lives in his whole existence is the fantasies of other people. You'd think he'd be a little bit more.
Yeah.
Out there.
And that's the juxtaposition. The god of dreams and fantasies is the most like rule apparent, and like gods have to follow these rules and we have to do these things, and humans have this role to play, and this is how this is.
Yeah. Okay, so then so then the acting. I think the acting was really good because they do bring him in, and this actor.
That was one thing too. Is the characters in this? I know there. Right after the show, there was like a little bit of a flim-flam, a little Twitter, outcry because they changed characters from the comics, into the show, which always happens. Like, that's just something we gotta get used to. But at the same time, I know Neil Gaiman came out on his personal Twitter and was like, I personally approved all the changes. These characters and stuff. So if you're seeing this in the show, it's not something that was like, oh, Netflix is just trying to ruin it. It's like, no, he approved that.
Okay. Yeah, so any changes that were made to any of the characters or anything, that's always good to get the support, especially for credibility purposes of people who liked the original stuff. I think that he acted this out really well. This guy it's like, I would say the actor seems to be quite the opposite, maybe, of Dream, and then to see him so effectively play the straight man, in of being Dream, and you're like, wow.
I mean, in the comics, he looks wild. He looks crazy. His hair is like out to here. He's in a long black robe and all of that, and I think that's more of a artistic aesthetic of like the '80s and stuff like that. So they just kind of modernized it and. Okay, we're gonna bring you in like this.
Yeah. Okay, I do see that. I'm looking at it right now. I'll put a picture up so you guys will see the picture up over here. But yeah, I am looking at Dream. He does look like a little bit of a wild character. So, but all right. So then moving on from there. So I try to keep it to about 5 or 6 main characters. We'll do the villains last. So other than Dream, who's your second character here you'd like to tell us about with the show?
Shoot. Catching me off guard. It's his.
The Raven. I was going to say the Raven.
The Raven, who was that was a good character.
Played by Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, Patton Oswalt.
Okay.
That's your little. It's your comedic, kind of breaks in the series, so that you're not trying to. Take yourself too seriously, but at the same time.
So let me just real quick say this. So we're going to talk about Patton Oswalt character. Patton Oswalt, most well known for Young Adult from 2011, and then most recently did Storybots Answer Time. That's a series on Netflix. Actually, my kids watch. He also did another one. He was also in Inside Job. in TV series in 2022. Both story bots and answer time and Inside Job, two TV series that were released in 2022.
IMDb needs to rework this one.
Yeah, well, no, because I'm going off IMDb, but like his most well-known thing. He was also in the movie Ratatouille. He played Remy. So, but anyway, okay, so go on. So Matthew the Raven, he plays a Raven character in this show. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's your like he's like your voice of humanity.
Okay.
So he's the one. Not really guiding Dream. He's helping him along. But Dream doesn't want his help. He feels like he needs to do this quest by himself, and Matthew is the one that kind of like reminds him, like, hey, your whole existence is for, in service to humanity. So you need to be, looking at humans and trying to see what their point of view is. And we see that, with the symbolism too. Ravens always being like a symbol of wisdom, and, these kind of things. And they're also, dark creatures as well. 1 sec. Zane, lay down.
That's
That's my dog.
Steven has dogs. It is a long-running tradition of people who have dogs on Mike's After Action Reviews to have them interrupt our little interviews. No, this is perfectly fine. So okay, and I will say I like Patton Oswalt. He gets into some weird stuff like in his personal life, but I think that he's a pretty good actor. He does a pretty good job of playing. Just typically, he does a pretty good job of playing kind of like the guy that's there that you don't necessarily like. Just like your average Joe, and so it is. I would say that Matthew the Raven in this show is really kind of your average Joe who's like following around this. How many of them are there? Like 7, or he's one of the 7 gods or 12 gods,
Yeah, and
super
they
powerful
all
beings.
have like, you may not get it from this, but in the comic, like they all have D names. They're like desire, death, despair, dream, things like that.
Oh, okay. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, he's like thrust into this. Imagine just like your average guy, maybe even a little bit bland, somebody you would never look at twice, and then he ends up being like this advisor to this super powerful being. So that's always an interesting. It's like an interesting character to be if you just kind of think about it, thinking about the idea of like what that would be like, I guess. So okay. So I liked his character. He did some pretty good voice acting and stuff. So then that's 2 characters. Like I said, 5. Just think of like 5 main characters. Who's your next character you want to talk about?
The next one would be his sister, Death.
She's not listed. She's actually listed about like middle way through. But I do agree with you. I've seen, like I said, I've seen enough of the show to know that she's like a big character here. So yeah. Kirby Howell Baptiste. Most well known for The Good Place. She was that went from 2018 to 2020. She was in 12 episodes. And then most recently was in Mr. Harrigan's Phone, which is a thriller that I saw, and actually is pretty good. So I would say that she's a pretty good actress or actor, depending on how you want to say that. So let's talk. Tell us about her. Tell us about Death.
All right. So Death is the sister to Dream, and she's the person who is probably on the best relationship terms with Dream. And, that has a lot to do with his personality. His, like you were saying, his adherence to these, like, laws of nature and gods and things like that. He's the one who takes himself the most seriously. And she's the person who tries to, like, always bring him out of his shell and try to say, hey, you're in your head too much. You need to, experience the world around you and see things in a different way. So he'll get really down on it. He gets so much into these philosophical arguments and trying to like discover meaning of things that, she's the one who pulls him back to reality and says like, hey, like live in the world a little bit and see this, and that spurns on multiple other story arcs that are.
Right, and I do, and I remember seeing her, and you kind of get this feeling of like warmth and kindness, and maybe a little bit of joy from her in a good, like, I mean, obviously she's death, so it's not like in a respectful way. It's not like she's kind of like you were saying, like he takes himself really seriously. I wouldn't say that she doesn't take herself seriously. It's like why not? I don't know. I think at one point she does say to Death to Dream, because he says something to her like basically, why do you act the way you act doing the job that you do? And she says, I'm the last person that these people see, and I might as well be basically nice to them, you know. And so very kind, very, very.
That just her introduction to the series, and that episode where she first comes in. That whole thing blew me away. I was just like, I didn't realize what was going on.
Right, and that's and it's like such a solemn thing, and that's what you're saying when you're talking about like juxtaposition and challenging the ideas that are presented, and then kind of counterbalancing certain things. Like this is a very solemn thing. And we kind of all have this idea of like the Grim Reaper who comes in and is cold and like, and she comes in and she's like, hey, like, you've passed away. Come with me. I'm gonna take you to your final place. And that's kind of cool. It's a really cool character. I think acted very well. So anyway, go on. I don't want to steal your thunder here on Death.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah. No, but she helps him solidify a lot of his philosophical, and say like, this. She's the one who will sit there and debate with him and say you're wrong on these, or and this is why, and yada yada. She'll entertain that stuff, whereas the other gods are very distant from Death. They really want no part, and they seem to be more caught up in their own struggles and their own worlds that they're trying to do.
Yeah. All right, so awesome. Okay, so then I think otherwise then we can move forward. So again, I think there's great acting so far from all the characters. I will tell you, you're not going to get a complaint from the acting of the show from me here. So then, what's your next character? We got to save the last one for the big bad. So we'll kind of talk about the big bad at the end. But what, another character then?
Well, if that's the case, then we've got two big bads. I know.
Right.
I know. The other main supporting area, I believe, was Calliope, was Dream's like right hand person in the library.
Yep. So Lucien.
Lucien, that's right. Sorry. I mean, she's kind of like another person like Patton Oswalt trying to help Dream, on his quest.
Just one second. I just got to go through this real quick. So Lucien, played by Vivian. Her name is really hard to pronounce, but it's Akiampong. I'll put the name up so you guys can see it. She's most well known for The Witches in 2020, and then also most recently did the TV series Ellie and Natasha, and that was in 2022. She was in 2 episodes of that. Okay. Sorry, go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt you. I gotta introduce each of the actors.
Oh yeah. It's all good. Yeah, she's another supporting character that's helping Dream, on his quest to not just find all of his tools, but also to rebuild the dreamscape and try to fix his absence of 100 years, and take control. So she did really well. She had, like the actress who did that, she had a candor to her, and kind of like the little British accent and all that. It fit that character really well.
Yeah, the librarian look too. She has like this, maybe almost like she's very nice, but almost like an air of superiority, knowledgeable type of character that gets, even at sometimes you not like a comedic value, but just some of the ways that she interacts and says some snarky little comments about like what is the smart thing here is kind of funny from her.
She reminds me of a platoon sergeant in the Army. Like,
Okay.
Dream is the lieutenant. You know, he's on paper, he's officially in charge. He's the one who comes up with all the stuff we're supposed to do. But she's the platoon daddy. She's the platoon sergeant who's like, no, this is my platoon. I run it.
No, that's really good. I do like that. Okay, so again, really great acting. I haven't seen any of her other stuff, but now I imagine that it wasn't actually The Witches. Isn't The Witches? Oh, okay. So she was in
that sounds familiar.
So The Witches is the one where they turn they turn children into rats, and then they and then they eat the rats. And then they recently remade it. And the remake, my understanding of the remake is that it didn't do so well. It didn't do so well at the box office, or I think it might have come out on streaming as well. It didn't do so well, but at the same time, it's kind of a beloved story, and
yeah,
I do like her acting, so I don't imagine that the acting was the problem there, because they had some really good actors in the movie.
That's another weird vein of Netflix and Hollywood now, where they keep trying to like re-inspire all these children movies from the 90s and previous time periods, and it's like, oh, you have to remember, like, nostalgic wise, for kids who grew up and watch these things, it's good, but at the same time, like, it's made for children TV, so it's not like gonna be amazing caliber of entertainment.
Yeah, the originals are always better. That's the thing. Yeah. Okay, so then moving forward, who you got next? So do you want to go over then the bad guys then? Is that what you're?
Yeah. So the next person we have who's set up really as the major big bad would be the Corinthian.
Okay, so the Corinthian, he is played by Boyd Holbrook. He is most well known for playing. He plays the bad guy in the movie Logan from 2017. Also plays this very similar type of character in the movie The Predator in 2018. But we don't have to talk about The Predator. The movie wasn't so good. But anyway, Logan from 2017, and then most recently, actually before doing this show, most recently he did Vengeance, a movie from 2022. I haven't seen Vengeance, but I saw Logan, and I've seen him in some other stuff. He has been in some stuff that maybe wouldn't be considered great, okay, but I don't think that he was necessarily the problem in the movies and TV shows where he didn't do so great. I think his acting is pretty good. I don't think that he's like the greatest actor, but his acting is good. Anyway, go on. So the Corinthian.
Yeah, and I think the actor, he definitely came out to play. He showed his chops in this one.
Yeah.
That guy knew his part, and he played it well. He was a very, very creepy guy. and
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of set up as like the big problem the Dream has to solve, is that he created this nightmare, the Corinthian, and that's part two reminds you that Dream doesn't just create nice, mystical dreams for everybody. It's not all just like, yay, he's also the god of nightmares too. And he creates this nightmare, and this nightmare in his absence escapes, and he's in the real world. And that goes back to what I was kind of talking at the beginning, where you have this like gap from World War I and World War II, and it's kind of saying like humanity broke its soul, kind of lost ourselves. So this Corinthian nightmare is out there envisioning real horrors that should only be dreams. They should only be nightmares. And so Dream has to, recapture him.
Right, and I will say that he's one of the characters that every time that I would watch, and he would be on screen, if there's like a duality to his character, because I would be watching him interact with people, and I'd be like, oh man, he's gonna, like, I'm waiting. I would wait for, like in movies when there's scenes where someone will interact with people and then maybe it'll cut away to something else, and then when it comes back, it's like them walking out of the room and you look behind him and the person is dead. That's what I imagined with every character he ever interacted with. But then at the same time, he was cold and calculating, and smart enough that he's not just some crazy serial killer type guy where he's just going around killing people.
Yeah.
Even though in every scene you see him, you get the feeling of like, oh, he's gonna kill this person brutally here.
Yeah, you're very worried of anybody he interacts with. Like, are they gonna make it out?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, but he's at the same time he's just focused on his survival. He wants to exist. He wants to live. And he was let out of his cage into the real world, and now he doesn't want to go back to the dream world.
Right. Yeah. And I would say, again, well-acted character, definitely interesting. Now, I will tell you, I know so there's two big bads. At the point where I am at right now in the series, there has been another big bad alluded to, but I don't know who it is myself. So if you want to, let's get into the second big bad then, I guess. Who would that be?
That is Desire.
Okay, right. And I will tell you, so that has been, you see Desire, I think like halfway through, and it's no spoiler, because it's definitely set up as like, this person is not good. But I don't know actually anything about any of the machinations or any of the stuff that they do there. So then Desire is played by Mason Alexander Park, and most well known for Cowboy Bebop, the Netflix series from 2021, and then also most recently did Quantum Leap, which is a TV series from 2022 to 2023. They were in 13 episodes. Quantum Leap is a remake of the original Quantum Leap. Wow. I did hear about this. I just didn't realize that it's gotten 2 seasons. Okay, so from those two things, I haven't seen Quantum Leap. I have seen Sandman. Enough of it. I haven't finished it yet, but I have seen it. And I have seen Cowboy Bebop. Bebop. I don't know how Quantum Leap was. I know that Cowboy Bebop was absolutely terrible. And I like Sandman, so that kind of gives me a little bit of mixed feelings about this actor or actress. I guess so. On the IMDb, it's listing as non-binary. However you feel about that, whatever. Not going to get into it. So this actor, actress, whatever. I don't know how I feel about them necessarily, but I do know that they did a good job here, in my opinion. The acting here was good.
Yeah, so. They did an absolute bang-up job, and this was the person to play for this role. Like, if there was a role built for, that actor, this was it. And again, you're dealing with symbology of what that character is supposed to represent, and that's why a character is set up as like androgynous. There's not supposed to be any sort of masculine or feminine energy behind it. It's supposed to be like just represent desire, and the artistic backgrounds and scenes of like their lair and all this other kind of stuff, like all of it leads up to how well this character was envisioned and portrayed on the screen.
Yeah. And I know, so I know that there's like, I was just gonna say, like, I do agree, because I know that there's been representations of things like desire, pleasure. If you've seen like the Warhammer series, they have a race of demons that are both male and female. Like, they literally have one half of their body is like a man, and then the other half of their body has like breasts and different features. And it's like the pleasure demons or something. They're called something really weird, but they're basically called they're basically like the pleasure demons, and to represent that idea. So that definitely works. And so anybody who's afraid,
I think it goes to what you were talking in the beginning, like these political ideas and stuff like that. This would be a good example where like the character is obviously transgendered and androgynous, but that is for the purpose of making a god of both female and male desire. Like, it's not to make a statement,
Yeah, you can definitely, I would definitely say that it's completely separate from the, it's like androgynous and, I wouldn't even say transgender, because I think the transgender is like the political side of that, and it's like, I wouldn't say that this character is transgender, I would just say that they are basically genderless by being both genders.
Yes.
Yeah. So not exactly transgender, but basically avoiding any of the political issues with that by being just, I am not man or woman, I am basically pleasure and pain, and or pain is another character, or I forget what they call the pain, but the pain god or whatever, but closely related with this character. So if you're afraid of there being like some political issue with that, I would say this would probably be it. And it's not an issue. So not beating your head, but not beating you over the head with any ideas here. So the acting I think is pretty good, and definitely you get the feeling of, so you remember how Loki used to be in the first like Thor and the Marvel movies, where Loki was like very mischievous and all of that. You definitely get a feeling of like I don't know if anything that this character says is truth or lies or whatever. And there's all of this manipulation, so you definitely do get that, and I think that they fill out that role pretty well. So,
yeah, and that character Desire also sets up the interaction that Dream has with other gods. Even in this series, you don't see that, and if you're a reader of the comics, it goes further into it, and he definitely has interactions with the other gods. But this kind of sets up the way his relationship is with the other gods, because just like what you're talking about is how Dream is Desire. He's not that way with Death, and he's also very disconnected with the other gods as well. So that relationship seems to be like, okay, I'm over here in my corner and I'm adhering to these like laws that we're supposed to do, and we're supposed to be, in service of humanity and doing all these, great things for this world that exists. And these other gods seem to be very focused on the exact emotion behind their name, desire and death and all these other things. And they're very like selfish in their wants and desires.
Right. Yeah, well, actually, now that I'm just because you've said that, it makes me think of like, death is like an occurrence of a thing, right? Like it's something that happens, okay?
Yeah.
And dreams kind of are like, this is a phenomenon that happens, okay? But then like desire, pleasure, I forget what all of them are, but I'm just generally the ideas behind some of these gods are like desire, pleasure, hate, anger. Those are basically like feelings.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that you basically have a guy who is like, hey, this is not like my whole aspect of living is not like an emotional thing. I'm just here to do a job. And then also death, which is basically the same idea, versus all these different people who represent emotions. Yeah, and you can see why there would be like a separation between all of them. Yeah, in the way that they interact with each other. So, all right, yeah. So I get, and I would agree with you about the casting here was really done really well. With the cast, and the acting is done really well, as so then I think that we're good then to move forward. If there's any miscellaneous things, any big things about this, I know that sometimes I've had people talk about the cinematography, just different little anecdotes you want to give about the show. That's what the miscellaneous section is for. So anything you want to add in the miscellaneous section, buddy?
I mean, I think we both agree the cinematography, just the artistic value of this is like head above heels, most, especially for Netflix.
Yeah.
You don't expect this level of production value, and artistic value.
And even like the CGI as well. This isn't like some CGI fest, it's not like a Marvel movie, but it is, it's done. It's like you do enough to make everything. You do enough and do it well enough that it works, but do little enough that it doesn't show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And part of that too is the addition of each episode could kind of stand alone as its own story.
Okay.
They do intertwine. They do there's the idea of like, okay, Dream does have to make it to his end goal. He does have to acquire his tools. He does have to find out who was behind imprisoning, stuff like that. But these things have, each episode kind of has its own plot and its own morality and its own issues behind it. And then of course we bring in extra characters like Constantine is in here. Constantine's a female, but that's another DC character that's coming into this universe. So these characters do play around with the DC universe and stuff as well. So that's something to keep in mind here. But they're the stars of these shows coming out of that writer's run.
Yeah, actually, I do have a question about that then too. Just before, so what do you think about the idea of, because this is DC, like, and with James Gunn now taking over the DC EU and whatever, like, do you think we're gonna get a Superman versus Dream, or Dream and Superman, and Dream and the Justice League, or
Absolutely not. No, I mean these runs were made for a specific reason, and I think, as I said in the beginning, like, I think that's something that DC, needs to be looking in that direction to set itself apart from Marvel, because they're number one characters that we all know. Like, everyone around the world knows Superman, Batman. They know these kind of things. There's no reason to keep rehashing these stories over and over and over again and retelling the story of Superman and Batman and all of that. These stories here are extremely interesting, and they are dark and full of mythology and artistic, just like symbolism dripping off of them, and all of these, deals going in with it. And it's a much more, I would say it's a much more serious value. The philosophical arguments that are being made in the Sandman would be tied right in an English lit class and discussed in the same manner, So that right there is a complete different direction, and it would set them totally apart. Are they going to do it? I don't know. But if they wanted to look at the success of this Netflix run, you definitely have a want and desire for people to consume that type of media and those type of stories.
Well, it definitely is more grounded. I would say, like obviously this is about people who have magical powers and they can affect the universe in all these great ways, but this is like definitely very human, like we don't have a guy wearing underwear flying around beating people, it's like you're saying, when you get into ideological things and you're exploring ideas more so than you are characters and world, like exploring like unnecessarily like step-by-step story of the action hero or something. Those ideas might be present in those types of stories, but this is like about the ideas that touches people's hearts, because it makes you think. It makes you think like, So it's about human character, and so we definitely reach that.
This is a good time for DC to pick too, because you're looking at Marvel. Marvel's at a point in time where
going down.
The majority of not just going down, but most of the commentary about it is that Marvel's going to have to like break the Marvel universe to continue the Marvel universe. We're going to use, the Avengers, Kane, and all this other stuff to introduce the multiverse and create now new Avengers and do all this other kind of stuff. And there's a level of like, continuity that's just starting to look like spaghetti and not really go well together. So this is a perfect time for DC to look and say like, hey, we had this run comics in the 80s that like everyone loved, and the stories were amazing. Most people don't even realize like that's what it was all about. We've all seen like V for Vendetta. That was an amazing movie that came out of this run. These kind of stories, they do touch people, and I think that's something DC can really lean into. The Watchmen, when the movie The Watchmen came out, I loved that. And that was as close to the comic adaptation that you could get. But there's some very serious issues being discussed in that.
Yeah. So I agree with that, and you know it's yeah, I agree with that. I've had some ideas and kind of presented some different ideas about what I think both Marvel and DC should do to kind of secure their futures. And if they, I think if they would just listen to us, maybe they could do a little bit better. But will they? Probably not.
Yeah.
So, all right. If I could get you, then, if unless you have anything more to say, if you have more to say, you know, obviously we can be here forever and we can sit and talk or whatever, however long you want to go. But if you're ready, also, if you want to give your kind of final statement and review score.
Yeah.
So just for just real quick for the audience and then also for you. So here at Mike's After Action Reviews, we use 5 tiers. We have 5 tiers. We do not use. I don't use numbers because numbers kind of give it like an exact like this is. And I don't necessarily think that, you know, it's like there's kind of a range of where things can land. So it's bad, below average, average, above average, and excellent. So, you know, and the reason that I do it that way is because you might have something that is excellent, but it's not as good as something else that is excellent. But if they're both 10, that kind of annotates it as being like the same, but they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So, yeah, if you want to give your kind of all-encompassing of your ideas of the quality of the show, and then final review score. Tell us what you got, buddy.
Yeah. You know, I'm definitely gonna say with the art and the writing and the journey that this story takes us on is different than just about any form of media that they're throwing up today. It's not manufactured. It's not something born out of a writer's room. You know, a bunch of people are getting together and discussing ideas, and you know, things get too like bogged down and stuff. No, this story was written previously, and they're adhering to those ideas on it. So it's taken in, and also the story itself. You know, Neil Gaiman, he requires you to take yourself seriously and to like respect the work that's coming out that he's entertaining you with. You know, you're required to be a different type of reader, a different type of consumer of media. If you don't enjoy mythology, if you don't enjoy, you know, serious questions about morals and philosophy and things like that, yeah, you know, is it, like I said in the beginning, it's probably not going to be your bag. But if you're the person that, you know, you do have those questions and you expect kind of like a tier above on your fine arts and your literature, this is in your excellent vein. Like, this is amazing. This came out and really blew me away with the art, the music, the acting, and the ability to maintain Neil Gaiman's vision without you know, getting lost in production and editing and in the writer's room.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. Excellent. Yeah. So there you go. So you can see this on Netflix right now, and they are making another season. Is that the thing?
So far, yeah, they've said they're going to make another season of this.
All right. Excellent. So you'll be able to check out another season of this hopefully soon. And like I said, go check it out on Netflix. Also, before we go, I do just want to give a shout out here to you, Salty Skipper, Steven. So Salty Skipper here is the name that you'll see on the blog. If you go check out my blog, he's written some stuff for me on the movie The Predator. Or no, not The Predator. Predator.
Right.
Yeah, the new Predator show. The new Predator movie on Netflix, or on Hulu. What was the name of it? It was I know it's Predator, but then it's
Prey.
Prey. There it is. Prey.
Yeah,
That's what it is. Okay. Yeah. So Prey. Go check out the written review if you like the ideas that we're talking about, and like Steven here, go check out his written review on Prey on the blog, linked in the description below. Also, give yourself a plug. Talk about Tales of Nihilism.
Yeah. So I'm the creator of my own comic, Tales of Nihilism. We are launching on January 31st on Global Comics. We have a Facebook page and a Twitter. The Facebook page is going to have first 2 issues loaded up on there. and then first 3 issues are free if you're a Global Comics subscriber. I think it's like $1.99 a month or something like that to be a subscriber, and then after that, everything is going to be, behind the paywall as you're subscribing. So it's the other big project I'm working on.
All right, so definitely go check that out. I'm going to put the links for everything in the description. So check out Steven, support small creators and veterans as well, because we're both. I'm about to get out of the Army, and Steven was in the Army as well. So, so that's all we've got today, guys. Both of us. I speak for everybody at. I believe anyway. I speak for everybody at Mike's After Action Reviews when I say, hey, everybody behind the scenes, in front of the camera, and everything. We all really appreciate it, the support, and we do want to thank you all for watching, and just say, hey, God bless you all. And have a good day. Don't forget to check me out on Twitch and join the Discord, where you can voice chat with me while I live stream, and you won't be recorded or anything on YouTube and Twitch, so that's pretty cool. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. If you like to read, you can see my after action reports on my blog. And if you are interested, you can get some merch from my spring store. The links for everything are in the description below.